Sa mga mahihilig po sa golf, last week tayo ay nagkapuyatan dahil tayo po'y nanood nung napaka-exciting na The Masters dun po sa Augusta, Georgia. Well, this weekend, hindi naman puyatan pero tutukan dahil ang mismo po nating kababayan, si Yuka Saso, ang siyang lumalamang doon po sa isang LPGA tournament sa Hawaii. Yan po ay tututukan natin mamaya. Dahil napaka-exciting sa kasalukuyan, tapos na po ang pang-apat na holes ng third round at si Yuka Saso po ay tabla na kay Lydia Ko sa lead ng Lotte Championship. Mamaya pag-uusapan natin yan dito po sa napakagandang umaga at napakainit na malinsangang Sabado muli sa Power and Play. Hatid sa inyo ng Big Boss Cement, Big Boss at Tatag, Big Boss at Tibay, at ng Cherry Loom. Ang yerong may aluminum. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat mga kapatid. Lalong-lalo na sa ating mga tagapakinig sa Radyo 5 92.3 News FM. Ang ating po mga suki sa mga sasakyan na mga namamasada o bumabiyahe ngayon. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Ako po si Noli Iyala. And of course, naimbag na bigat sa ating po mga kaibigan na nakatutok naman sa mga emergency room dyan po sa mga ospital sa Cebu at sa Cagayan de Oro. Lahat po ng ating mga nanonood sa pamamagitan ng 1PH over Signal TV. Channel 1 yan sa Signal TV 1PH. And of course, yung po mga nanonood sa atin worldwide sa pamamagitan naman ng Facebook Live, ng Power and Play, and of course ng Radyo 5 at ng 1PH. Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. And of course, yung mga nanonood sa atin sa The Noli Iyala YouTube channel. Marami po tayong naka-line up muli. Sangkaterpa na naman ito. Ang pag-uusapan natin ay, of course, ang inyong paboritong basketball, bagamat wala pang mga laro dahil sa ating dinadaan ng pandemya. Marami namang balita pong tayong tinututukan. At mamaya, sa ating pulso, pag-uusapan din natin yan. Of course, mamaya rin po magkakaroon ng konting pagklaro naman tayo sa mga mahihilig sa cycling. Tingnan natin kung yung ating paboritong cycling events ay matutuloy pa. Marami pa rin po tayo, of course, na mga balita at mga panauhin na makakapanayam mamaya. Norman Black ng Meralco Bolts. Norman Black ng Meralco Bolts, mga kaibigan, mga kasama natin mamaya. Ang Pangulo po ng Samahang Basketbol ng Pilipinas, si Mr. Panlilio, will also be with us today, and my favorite sports analyst, Quinito Henson, and Coach Ryan Gregorio. Mamaya din po yan, So, tutukan nyo po ng 2 oras ngayong araw pong ito, muli ang Power and Play. Pero syempre, sa dami ng mga balita sa mundo ng palakasan, kailangan nating himayin yan sa pamamagitan ng ating paboritong Weekly Sports Highlights. Noong nakaraang araw ng linggo, si Jerwin Angkahas, kampiyon pa rin sa Junior Bantamweight to Super Flyweight Division ng IBF. Yan ay matapos niya talunin via unanimous decision si Jonathan Javier Rodriguez in a convincing victory para sa ating pretty boy Jerwin Angkahas. Martes, sa larangan ng golf, si Hideki Matsuyama ang nag-uwi ng green jacket matapos manalo sa The Masters. Siya rin ang kauna-unahang Japanese golfer na manalo ng isang major championship at kauna-unahang Asyano na nanalo ng The Masters. Miyerkules, naganap ang kontrobersyal na laro sa pagitan ng Lapu-Lapu Heroes at Sikihor Mystics sa VisMin Cup. Puno ang laro ng mga mintis na free throw, pati na rin ng wide open na layups. Mamaya-maya pag-uusapan pa natin yan sa ating Pulso ng Bayan. Huwebes, talon naman tayo sa NBA kung saan ginulat ni LaMarcus Aldridge ang basketball world nang bigla siyang magretiro. Ang dahilan, natuklasan ni Aldridge na siya ay nagkaroon ng irregular heartbeat, kung kaya't minabuti niya ang magretiro at unahin ang kanyang kalusugan. Huwebes din nang matagpuan si Kai Soto na patuloy ang pagpapalakas at pag-iensayo. Ang kanyang kasama sa training, former NBA All-Star big man Amari Stoudemire. Biyernes naman, ipinakilala na ang presenters ng 2021 Basketball Hall of Fame class. Para kay Kevin Garnett, si Isaiah Thomas ang presenter niya. Kay Tim Duncan, si David Robinson naman. At sa yumaong si Kobe Bryant, walang iba kundi si Michael Jordan mismo. At kahapon din Biyernes nang kunin ni Gilas ang solo lead sa LPGA event ng Lotte Championship sa Hawaii. Yan po ang ating mga weekly sports highlights ngayong linggo. Napakadaming balita, of course. And ang ating tinututukan, of course, ang ating kababayan na si Yuka Saso. Sabi ko nga, entering the third round today, siya po ay may 2-stroke lead kay Lydia Ko. Subalit, itong huling update na nakuha natin, tabla na po sila ni Lydia Ko after the 4th round. Patuloy po nating tutukan yan. Yung mga merong paraan para panoorin ito, suportahan po natin, panoorin naman natin, and of course, pagdasal po natin ang ating kababayan. Ang ating pong Yuka Saso, of course, naghahabol din ng isang slot sa Olympics. Alright, at this point mga kaibigan, syempre hindi tayo mawawalan ng pulso ng bayan. Ano po ang pupulsuhan natin? Well, yung pong nakagulat sa mundo ng basketball. Alam naman natin na nangyari po dyan sa VisMin Super Cup. Wala pang isang linggo, nagkagulo na dyan sa VisMin Super Cup na ginaganap po sa Cebu. Yung pong laban ng Lapu-Lapu Heroes at yung Sikihor Magicians, Mystics pala, kasi minamagic yung score eh. First half pa lang, tinigil na po yung laban na yan dahil sa Sus Mariosep, mga mintis na free throw, kanan, kaliwa, hindi tumatama ng ring, yung mga layup na libre, hindi pumapasok. Pinatigil po yung laban na yan dahil naging kalokohan yung laro pong mismong yon. Nagkaroon po ng investigasyon at nagkaroon po ng mga sanctions na ipinataw. Banned for life ang mga tiga-Sikihor Mystics at na-fine naman ng liga ang Lapu-Lapu Heroes, yung iba pong players dyan at pati ang mga coaches. At ang GAB po ay patuloy na gumagawa po ng kanilang investigasyon. Kaya po ang ating pupulsuhan ngayong araw pong ito, yan po nasa inyong television screen. Ang ating pupulsuhan ay karapat-dapat ba, mga kapatid, ang parusa na ipinataw sa mga sangkot sa kontrobersyal na VisMin Cup game. Ulitin ko po yan, karapat-dapat ba yung po mga parusa, yung lifetime ban ng Sikihor Mystics at yung po mga fines na ipinataw sa Lapu-Lapu Hero players na mga sangkot sa controversial na VisMin Super Cup game. Kung gusto niyo pong bigay ng inyong opinion at makilahok sa ating talakayan, mag-text lamang sa 0949-691-4956 o di kaya mag-post sa aming Facebook page, Power and Play with Noli Yala, Facebook page ng 1PH o Facebook page po ng Radyo 5 92.3 News FM. Mamaya-maya ay ating babasahin lahat po yung inyong mga may papasang mga opinion tungkol po sa ating pinupulsuhan ngayong araw na ito. Alright, at this point mga kaibigan, syempre, ang lagi nating buena mano sa ating palatuntunan ay ang ating pong paboritong fast take segment. At today, maswerte tayo dahil ang ating pong mga kasama, isang first-timer sa ating fast take at siya rin po ay bago nating kasama sa ESPN5. Walang iba kundi si Norman Riego at ang kanyang makakasama din ngayong araw na to from spin.ph, si Randolph Leongson. Magandang umaga, Norman and Randolph. Good to see you. Randolph, welcome back to the show. Norman, it's your first time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Com. Thank you, Com. Good morning po.
Magandang umaga. Randolph, kamusta ka? Alam nyo, sabi ko kanina ko pa pinaulit-ulit na ang aking tinututukan ngayon, itong paglalaro ni Yuka Saso sa Lotte Championship. Just a quick opinion from the two of you. Gaano kalaki ito? Just in case manalo si Yuka, how big is this for Philippine sports? Lalo na sa panahon ng pandemya ngayon. Norman, I'll begin with you.
Ayun nga kung as you said, dahil nasa pandemya tayo ngayon, this would give hope, of course. Yun yung pinaka-basic doon eh. Kumbaga it's good news naman para sa ating bansa. And more than that, yung sport kasi na linalaro ni Yuka ngayon, which is golf, kumbaga yung ginawa ni Heidelin, unti-unting mapapaangat niya yung nang pagkapanalo niya yung sport ng golf dito sa bansa natin.
Very well, good point yan. Sapagkat alam natin, nung nanalo, halimbawa si Bata Reyes, sumikat ang larong bilyar. Nung nananalo, ang mga badminton players natin, sumikat ng badminton. Randolph, alam natin, naghahabol din si Yuka ng isang Olympic slot. Ito bang performance ito will go a long way patungo dun sa Tokyo Olympics?
Oo naman, kumbaga, di ba nga, siya yung inawarda namin ng Athlete of the Year ng Philippine Sports Writers Association. And considering na napakabata pa ni Yuka, kumbaga, everything is just going well for her this early in her career. And we can see a brighter future. Kumbaga, kung gantong edad mo, ang ganda na pinapakita mo, what more yung mga susunod pang taon. And we can expect more glory from her. Yun naman yung sigurado tayo as we go along.
Yes, so obviously, hindi lamang yung 300,000 dolyares na prize money, but of course, the karangalan na ibibigay sa atin ni Yuka Saso. Alright, well, this is Fast Take. Norman, si Randolph, sanay na dito. Dito, ang opinion ninyo, ang importante, ang ating mga kaibigan sa hanap buhay, bato-bato sa langit, tamaan, wag magagalit, walang mali, walang tama. And we will give you 1 minute for every issue that we throw. Alright, we'll begin with our first take of the morning. Alam natin, katatapos lamang ng laban ni Jerwin ng Kahas kung saan nanalo siya ng unanimous decision kay Jonathan Javier Rodriguez. Napakalaking panalo and it was a good fight. So ang tanong, sino ang dapat maging susunod na kalaban ni Jerwin ang Kahas? I will begin with you, Norman. 1 minute. Go!
Kung para sa akin, kasi parang it's been a long time since merong dalawang magaling na taga Southeast Asia na boksingero. No? So, for me, magandang makitang kalaban niya yung Thai na si Rung Visay. No? Kasi nag-express na rin man na interest si Jerwin even before yung kakatapos lang niya na fight na gusto niya na itong super fight with itong Thai na si Rung Visay. But at the same time, kakasabi lang niya kagabi no, I think sa Inquirer, sinabi rin niya na gusto niyang maging first unified super flyweight champion ng bansa natin. So, nandyan din, on deck din yung laban niya against yung WBO champion na si Ioka na hapon. O pwede rin si Estrada, yung WCWBA champion ng super flyweight division. So, those are all good fights worth watching para sa ating pretty boy.
Exactly. Alam naman natin, napakaraming mga kalaban na nandyan na pwedeng hamunin. Pero sabi nga nung iba, umaatras daw kay Jerwin. Kaya tingnan natin. Kaya itong tanong ulit sa iyo, Randolph, sino ang dapat maging susunod na kalaban ni Pretty Boy Jerwin ang Kahas? 1 minute, Randolph. Go!
Para sa akin yung susunod na kalaban ni Jerwin, ito na siguro yung big stage, big fight feel na matagal na rin hinahangad ni Pretty Boy. So sa akin, hindi muna siguro si Rung Visay o hindi muna si Estrada, but rather si Chocolatito. Kumbaga, yan yung masabi nating bar dun sa weight division nila for the longest time. And Jerwin has been the champion since 2015. He's been unbeaten since 2012. So kumbaga, ito na siguro para sa akin yung Marco Antonio Barrera ni Jerwin Ancas. Kumbaga, yung mga unang kalaban, yung mga mabibigat na kalaban na pwedeng ihanay para mas lumaki yung star nitong si Jerwin Ancas. And I think we believe as well as yung mga other boxing fans na si Jerwin, same with Yumir Marshall, ito talaga yung mga masabi nating susunod na Manny Pacquiao. Ang dami na nating binigyan ng ganyang tag, pero ito talaga we can realistically vouch na siya yung susunod dun sa ating pambansang kamao.
Well, with the way he fought si Jonathan Javier Rodriguez, pinakita ni Jerwin that he can come up with a very exciting fight. May mga nagsabi nga, pwede na sana niyang tapusin yung laban na yun, pero binigyan niya ng pagkakataong, kumbaga, mag-iinit din siya sa laro. But ako, tama kayong dalawa. It could be Rung Visay, it could be Chocolatito, it could be any other fighter out there. Ang importante lang, muling makalaban ulit si Jerwin ang Kahas because, tumatakbo ang oras. hindi tayo pwedeng masyadong magtagal na walang laban. Alright, our second take of the morning. Ngayon na parami pa rin ang kaso sa buong mundo, hindi lamang po mga kapatid sa Pilipinas. We've seen lockdowns again in Europe. Nakita natin ang rise in certain parts of Africa and of course in Brazil and India and even in Southeast Asia and Asia in general. Nagsalita na po ang ilang mga sektor sa Japan, including the Secretary General ng ruling party ng Japan, na maaari pa ring makansila ang Tokyo Olympics a little over 100 days to go bago ang opening sa Tokyo. So, ang tanong, Randolph and Norman, gaano kalaking dagok sa Philippine sports ang posibleng pagkansela ng Tokyo Olympics just in case? I will begin with you. Randolph, 1 minute. Go!
Unfortunate kung matitigil o makakansela na naman yung Tokyo Olympics. Naghintay na ng mahigit isang taon o sobra-sobra pa yung ating Philippine athletes. And we've seen a number of them qualify na hindi na nga dumaan sa qualifiers binase na lang sa world rankings And siguro mas masaklap yan dun sa mga masabi natin na nandun na sa kanilang heyday, like si Heidi Lin, sila Yumir Marshall, na this could possibly be their last Olympics dahil syempre tumatanda rin naman yung mga atleta natin. Si Yumir obviously magiging pro na rin And siguro with the situations, ito na siguro yung gustong i-maximize ng ating mga atleta kung may mga mag-back out man. Kumbaga, ito na yung biggest chance natin para makakuha ng gold Oo, we understand yung kalusugan, yung health natin yung concern, but kumbaga kung titingnan mo sa standpoint ng purely sports, ito na siguro talaga yung pinakamataas na chance natin dun sa ginto. So napakasaya kung matitigil ulit.
Exactly. Alam mo, I agree with you. Naku, sayang naman kung ito ay mangyayari. But of course, andyan pa rin ang iba't ibang options. Same question, Norman. Gaano kalaking dagok sa Philippine sports kung makakansila ang Olimpiada ngayong taon na ito? 1 minute, Norman. Go!
Of course, dahil nga sa pandemya ngayon, very uncertain pa lahat. Pero I think responding to the balita nga po na maaaring makancel ulit yung Tokyo Olympics, yung head naman po ng Olympic Committee ng Japan, nag-reassure kumbaga na we're still pushing through, gagawin pa rin natin ito. But just in case, so for me, importante lang pong malaman natin yun. Pero just in case na hindi nga matuloy, syempre unfortunate talaga yun na nag-agree tayo kay Randolph sa parating yun, lalo na nga sa mga medyo tumatanda na nating atleta. But at the same time, maaari rin natin makita ito na kumbaga blessing in disguise nga, kasi first of all, yung health at saka safety ng athletes mata-take care of natin. Tapos pangalawa, dahil nga dito sa bansa natin, we have the longest na lockdown kumbaga. So yung preparations natin hindi pa talaga nandun para sa mga atleta natin So ayun lang para sa akin, Com.
Okay, yun. Ano yung pusa ba yun?
Pusa yun, Com. Sorry, pasensya na po.
Pero alam mo, yung sabi siguro ng pusa ninyo, I agree with Norman. Kasi ako naniniwala din ako sa sinasabi mo, no? Na it could also be a blessing in disguise. But kagaya, alam natin nangyari sa ating canoe-kayak mga athletes, nagkaroon ng COVID. That's why hindi sila makasali sa qualifier. Can you imagine that? But alam mo, at the end of the day, I think the pride of the Japanese ang may umiiral dito. Bagamat siguro hindi ito magiging masayang Olimpiada dahil walang fans, walang mga spectators, walang international crowd, magiging maikli, hindi siguro masyado maraming atletang dadating. Pero I think that pride and that need for mankind to make a statement laban sa pandemya ang magtutulak para ipagpatuloy ang Tokyo Olympics. Alright, let's go to our third and final take. Sana makitake din sa atin yung pusa mo, Norman. Kaya-kaya na yan.
Tatanong ko po ulit, Com.
Third and final take of the day. Alam naman natin ang nangyari sa VisMin Super Cup. Naku, ang daming opinion na lumabas sa social media dahil dyan sa mga nangyaring kapapalagan dun sa laban ng mistakes. Hindi, dapat ano yan misfits.
Mistakes.
mistakes at ng heroes. But ang VisMin Super Cup League ay already nagbigay ng kanilang parusa or kanilang sanctions. Of course, ang GAB nag-iimbestiga pa rin. Pero ang tanong ko sa inyong dalawa, ano ang dapat maging susunod na hakbang ng VisMin Cup management? I will begin with you, Norman. 1 minute. Go!
For me, very simple lang naman para dun sa itong liga na ito, no. They have to realize na kumbaga dahil nga may title sponsor na sila, meron na silang nationwide coverage, they have to realize na meron na silang mas malaking responsibilidad para i-uphold yung integrity ng liga nila at yung integrity ng laro nila. So, kasi given na ang pagpasok ng title sponsor na chooks to go pa, hindi lang basta-basta, ang title one day before the league start lang. Pero that should have been the signal for league officials to explain sa coaches nila, sa players nila, sa teams nila na ito na yung chance natin para makilala at umangat. Hindi lang yung liga natin, kundi kasi buhat pa natin yung Visayas at Mindanao. So, pinaka-importante para sa akin na ma-realize nila yun at sa in the future, next games nila kasi nagpapatuloy pa rin naman sila. Kailangan meron na silang bit-bit, may chip on the shoulder na sila na ganun.
One thing I like with what they did is umakto sila kagad. And I think that is, very laudable mula sa panig ni Rocky Chan, ng COO ng VisMin Super Cup. Same question, Randolph. Ano ang dapat maging susunod na hakbang ng VisMin Cup management tungkol sa laban o para sa kanilang liga in the aftermath ng laban ng Sikihor at ng Lapu-Lapu? 1 minute, Randolph. Go!
I think we can all agree na nakakadiri, nakakasuhan, nakakainis yung nangyari dun sa Pilipinas VisMin Super Cup. Pero meron kasi mga report na lumalabas na yung Mike Sereño, si Jerry Cañada, si Ryan Buenafe, umaapela. Kasi sabi na hindi sila naging parte, hindi sila naglaro nung time na yon, kumbaga nung nagkababoyan na. I think thorough investigation of the matter, but not just sa Sikihor and Lapu-Lapu game, but rather sa lahat, I'm meaning lahat ng members, lahat ng team owners, lahat ng players, lahat ng coaches. Dahil, kumbaga, integrity, reputation yung nakasalalay dito eh. Wala pa silang isang linggo. Ganyan na agad yun nangyari. And I think it's not just on Pilipinas VisMin Super Cup eh. Even yung GAB, they will hand out bans, but also I think it's imperative for the SBP to take action kasi yung GAB hanggang pros lang eh. So siguro, if we can blacklist yung mga mapapatunayan natin para lang ma-prevent yung mga ganito sa mga susunod at sa iba pang liga, mas maganda sana kung magawa natin.
Very, very good point yon, Randolph. Alam mo, I totally agree with the two of you. Dapat talagang maging thorough ang investigasyon dito. Hindi ito natatapos sa fines and bans. I think it goes beyond this. The issue is bigger than this. Kasi ang pinag-usapan dito, aside from yung incompetence ng mga player, ay yung integrity ng liga and game fixing, the integrity of the sport itself. Kaya ako, alam mo kung ito ordinaryong laro lamang, wala namang magsasalita dito eh. Kung tayong tatlo, naglaro tayo at hindi tayo makashoot ng layup, siguro tatawanan tayo pero hindi tayo siguro malalagay sa social media at hindi tayo magti-trending. But they pass themselves as pros. Professionals eh. No? At pag ang professional, meron ka ng lisensyang ganyan, yung kahit man lang siguro 1 out of 3 magagawa mo sa free throw line, yung layup na libre maipapasok mo. Sabi nga, sino ba nagsabi noon? Si Spider-Man ba? Parang ganun eh. To whom much is given, much is expected. Diba? So, these are pros. Kaya kahit yung liga, dapat yan ay ripasuhin, dapat yan ay imbestigahan para hindi na maulit muli itong, sabi mo nga Randolph, kababuyan at kadiring nangyari dyan sa laban na yan. I totally agree and I hope na mangyari. At marami pa tayong pag-uusapan mamaya-maya. Norman and Randolph, maraming salamat for joining us today. Stay safe at continue churning out all of those stories dahil kami lahat ay nakatutok sa inyo. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Com. Thank you.
Thanks, Com. Ingat po.
Ingat. Yan po mga kaibigan, si Norman Riego ng ESPN5 at si Randolph Leongson ng spin.ph. Wow, ang dami nilang nasabi and of course tayo naniniwala sa kanilang mga takes this morning. All right, pinag-uusapan natin basketball. Well, at this point mga kaibigan, ipapasok natin ang ating susunod na panauhin and matagal ko nang hinahanap itong mamang ito. He's been very busy because he wears so many hats And today, tayo po'y mapalad na makakausap natin mismo ang Pangulo ng Samahang Basketbol ng Pilipinas at First Vice President ng Philippine Olympic Committee. Siya rin po ay head ng PLDT Smart. Walang iba kung hindi si Mr. Al Panlilio. Good morning, Al. Nice to see you finally.
Morning, Noli. Pasensya na. Medyo
Walang
hindi ako
problema, boss.
nakabisita sa'yo. Pasensya na.
Alam ko na you are very, very busy. Sabi ko nga, ang dami mong ginagampanan ng mga roles. And you know, I actually wanted to congratulate you. Nung una ko pa ikaw gustong kunin sa show. And that was the time na nanalo ka sa POC. But now you're already being given so many tasks, Al. And of course, ang una kong gustong tanungin sa iyo, you are now the vaccine czar ng Southeast Asian Games.
Okay. Akong gamitin yung Czar Noli eh. Ang gusto ko
sige,
lang,
huwag na czar. Vaccine, ano na lang.
Chairman Task Force, Chairman Task Force.
Sige, Chairman ng Task Force ng Southeast Asian Games para sa vaccine. So as Chairman, Mr. Panlilio, ano ba ang plano para sa ating mga atleta for the Southeast Asian Games?
Yeah, nag-meeting na kami ng task force namin, no? And basically nga what we're doing kasi si Mr. Ricky Rason actually committed for the Olympians, no? So we're working with ICTSI that we can get that as early as we can because hopefully by May, no, mapasok na yan para in time sila sa Olympics, no? Ang task sa akin talaga ni President Bumble is to take care of the SEA Games athletes, roughly about maybe 800 to 1,000 athletes, no? And that's what I'm working on. The task force I have formed is really composed of Dr. George Canlas. Siyempre, kailangan ko ng medical advice. Si Bones Floro, si Artini Billy Sumagi ng POC, tsaka I brought in na rin my Chief Procurement Officer of PLDT, si Os de la Paz, because as a PLDT group also, we did order about 1.2 million vaccines already, and mainly from actually Moderna, which is also through ICTSI, through sila Mr. Ricky Rason. So my task is to really work with also government, because we're asking permission with IATF. We can prioritize also the athletes, especially the Olympians, kasi yun yung mauuna, no? But I think we have a bit of time for our SEA Games athletes, and hopefully we're seeing hopefully the first major tranches to come in sometime in June, especially for the Moderna vaccines, no? So hopefully, I will already sort of reserve for about 1,200 athletes and delegation that's ready for the SEA Games, no? So yun yung aming unang gagawin, but we have written letters already to IATF for their permission to already work with LGUs also.
At this point, all right. At this
Sorry.
point, Al, ito ba ay magiging requirement ng Southeast Asian Games? Do you already know kung dapat ang ating mga atleta ay vaccinated, or talagang ito ay programa para talagang maging kampante naman ang ating mga atleta?
I think my understanding, even in the Olympics, it's not a requirement, no. But I think it's our responsibility naman to make sure that our athletes are safe. So it's good to err on the safe side by vaccinating our athletes. I think mas mabuti na meron silang protection rather than bahala na, di ba? So we want to make sure they're all safe.
Well, will this be limited, Mr. Panlilio, sa Southeast Asian Games? O tayo ba ay nag-iisip na rin na kahit na yung hindi lalahok, basta nasa NSA ay magkakaroon ng access sa mga vaccines?
Well, yun ang priority. But of course, as more vaccines come into the country, we will work with all the NSAs. Kasi the funding we're getting also from OCA covers NSAs also, eh. So I think we'll have to really talk to the NSAs and also give their allocations in terms of vaccinations also. But we will have to prioritize depending on the number of vaccines that actually come in.
So ito, Al, this is funded by the OCA. Ito ay popondohan. Meron ng pondo para dito.
Meron pondo na 40,000. I think there's also a 15,000 additional being requested. But kung kukulangin, then I think we will have to source some funding also. I mean just to cover athletes. Alam mo naman, when I really ran, I was really just asked by President Bumble to run for the POC. It wasn't my intention to be part of the board, but my main platform naman is really to help the athletes. Alam mo naman, Nolly, how athletes have a hard time all these years, diba? So yun lang naman ang purpose ko eh. So if I can help the athletes, also keep them safe, that's my priority.
Well, we're very happy. Ako, personally, I'm very happy that nandun ka. I've seen, of course, we know how professional you've run all of the companies that you've been involved in, and really good. Magandang makita na nasa loob ng POC, puro mga professional, mga tawag nila technocrats. But again, it's good to be that the POC is being run now by professional people para sa ating mga atleta. Let me go to another topic. Now wearing your hat, alisin natin yung chairman of the task force ng vaccine. But let me now get your hat as the president of SBP. Una-una, I guess you already know what happened just at VisMin Super Cup.
Yes.
And the bruaha, the fiasco na nangyari dyan, and of course the reaction ng buong basketball world dito sa ating bansa. What is your reaction as president of the Samahang Basketbol ng Pilipinas, Al?
Well, I was aghast with that incident. No, I mean, it's really completely disrespecting the game that a lot of us love, especially also you, Nolly, that you love basketball, of course, no, and it's really complete disrespect for the game, and I don't think that's the objective of even FIBA, no? FIBA will actually frown on this. So I've actually asked sila Sani Barrios, my executive director, sila Butch Antonio, to also investigate what has happened here, no? Kasi hindi to acceptable in any sport, honestly, no, and there are only a few people are privileged to actually play, and given that privilege, I think you should take a, as you said, I heard your Spider-Man comment earlier. I mean, there is great responsibility for being given that chance, no, and also to show to the youth and how the sport should be played. So this is really a terrible incident. I think. And then it's terrible also for sponsors, no? Like Chooks to Go. I mean, it will destroy their brand, and I don't think that is the intention of Mr. Mascareñas here in terms of sporting basketball. So it's there's nothing good about it at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned na binigyan mo na ng orders si ED Sani Barrios and of course Butch Antonio. If any, Al, could SBP possibly sanction as well itong mga players na to, itong mga teams na to, or even the league itself?
I think from a federation point of view, I mean, you would know this, no, at least because you're also an SBP executive director before, right? So we can sanction them by maybe suspending players, the league. I have to check the bylaws. Maybe you know it better than me in terms of penalty sanctions. In terms of financial aspects to it also, but definitely we will need to sanction them. I just want to make sure that it's the right application of our sanctions.
Alam mo, I totally support you, Al, on this, no? Kasi ako, in fact, my position has always been, kung ito ay ordinary league, wala naman masyadong magiging problema to, but this is a professional league.
Correct.
And ika nga, kailangan talagang tutukan ng mabuti. And this goes to my next point, Al, no? Marami nag-a-apply na liga ngayon na maging professional. And alam natin kung bakit. Dahil professional leagues lamang ang pinapayagang maglaro, no? Ang mga non-commercial, non-professional ay hindi pa pwede under IATF rules, no? Is there any move on the part of SBP and the GAB maybe discuss this thing? Dahil mukhang SBP being the governing body of basketball, mukhang nasa poder nyo nga talaga yung pagkilala kung sino yung kwalipikado bilang mga pros, no? Lalong-lalo na sa mga players, because I remember from my time there na the FIBA always requires the governing body to have a kumbaga listahan ng mga player.
Correct.
So is this
Correct.
something that the SBP is looking at in order to prevent this kind of happening again?
Yes, I think part of when part of this would be really a discussion with GAB. to your point, no, I think from a SBP point of view, as you know, we do have a membership, kumbaga eligibility committee leagues apply to SBP, no. I'm not sure whether VisMin has applied
Oo nga, yun
as
nga
a
tatanungin
member
ko
of,
sa'yo eh.
as a
Ikaw ba,
member of the federation. I have to
miyembro na ba? Oo.
check that. I have to check that, but we have criteria for membership,
Yes.
because when you become a member of the SBP, then you are also part of the voting of the membership of the National Congress of SBP. So we have very strict membership eligibility rules, no, and there are criteria required for you to become a member, like number of teams that you run as a league, number of times you run the league, and so on and so forth, no? So may mga criteria talaga yan. So yes, we will have to work with Gab, and really moving forward, how do we avoid such things moving forward, no?
All right. Let me move to another topic here. Alam natin na pinaghahandaan na ng SBP ang FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers.
Yes, yes.
Pagkatapos ng, you were supposed to host this in February, na-postpone.
Yes.
Then ito na naman. Unang-unang tanong ko, bakit kayo nag-decide to host it again?
Well, I think we've always been, not only, I guess even during your time, we've always been very close naman to FIBA, no? And we always wanted to support their programs. And I think this time around, Secretary General Andreas Zaclis, of course, is, dami rin nangyayari sa FIBA na tournaments na marami rin na suspend because nga of the pandemya, no? And I think it's our way of being part of the basketball family of FIBA. It's our way of helping FIBA really start, or at least make the activities or the programs happen for FIBA. We really wanted nga in February, as you indicated, but at the time our government could not allow us because of the issues. So we had to sort of say na hindi namin kaya. Tapos pumunta sa Doha. Doha naman yung nag-cancel. And when it reopened to us, and we've always been in touch with IATF, in fairness to IATF, they've been very, very helpful with us. Secretary Vince Dizon, Secretary Galvez, and their team, no, have been working very hard with us. And when we said that maybe June, is there a possibility that we can bring it back here? They said yes. So although we've indicated to FIBA, of course, times are very, very uncertain, that we are committed, but again, there's always this chance na merong mangyari, no? But we are fully committed to host June, because for us also, we want to prepare rin, kasi we've been lucky to the OQT, di ba? So it's our parang preparation to the OQT.
Okay. Well, you mentioned yung coordination nyo with the IATF. So I suppose na itong paghahanda natin at itong pag-host has at least their knowledge, no, at this point. Although wala pa namang full approval dahil alam natin sa MECQ pa ang NCR, no? But do you have any concerns, Al, about another postponement because of the number of cases happening in our country today?
Yeah, I mean, it's of course, no. I mean, at the end of the day, I think our main priority is to keep everybody safe, no. We'll be hosting 2 groups and 2 more teams from Group C. So you're really looking at what's that? 9 countries coming in, right? So plus of course our team. So medyo marami rin yung papasok, no. So we want to make sure everybody is safe. That's why it's really going to be a bubble. FIBA has been very, very strict also. I mean, they require all teams to be on quarantine even before they leave. They do testing before they leave, so that we're assured that when they come here, they're really safe, no? Plus, of course, the environment that we will create here, similar to the PBA bubble, and that's why we've learned a lot from the PBA bubble. We will do the same thing, and that relationship with IATF has started since last year, and we've been talking to, not only part of the PBA but also as SBP. We've been talking, sila Secretary Vince Dizon are very, very aware of what needs to be done, and the team on the ground in Clark that needs to make it happen. Kaya nga, we're also tapping, of course, Commission, si Willie, no? si Com Willie, on resources because they have the experience. So at least, and they're willing to help naman the SBP to make sure that we have a very successful hosting, safe and successful hosting.
All right. Well, we certainly hope na matuloy na yan dahil ang dami na rin Pilipino na nag-aabang dyan. I'll hold on for a minute. Magbe-break lang ako sandali. When we come back, I want to talk about Gilas and of course the goals of the SBP for the World Cup of 2023. Magbabalik pa po kami kasama si Mr. Al Panlilio ng Samahang Basketbol ng Pilipinas. Ito po ang Power and Play hatid sa inyo ng Big Boss Cement at ng Cherry Lou. Nagbabalik po ang Power and Play at kasama pa rin po natin ang Pangulo ng Samahang Basketbol ng Pilipinas, si Mr. Al Panlilio. Al, thanks for staying on. Alam mo, Al, historically, one of the problems sa ating pagbuo ng national team, yung pagmamadali, di ba? Yung lagi tayo nagmamadali because masyadong compressed ng ating schedule, ang ating basketball calendar sa Pilipinas. Now, the SBP has come up with this program of an all-cadets team, a bubble camp. Do you see this in the future as a template or proseso na susundin na ng SBP in terms of forming the national team?
Yeah, I think I've been, of course, I also wear a hat of the hat of being part of the PBA, as governor of Meralco Bolts, and I've seen how it has really impacted the calendar of the PBA, and in fact, in 2019, I think the PBA has sacrificed a lot in terms of supporting the national team of SBP because again, there was a World Cup and then there was a SEA Games, so the PBA had to stop during that season, and then preparation of it, although a bit short preparation for it. Kaya first time, I think, in the history of the PBA na nag-extend yung season beyond the calendar year, So nag-end tayo February, di ba? So first time, And because of that, we're catching up. So I felt it was also unfair to the PBA for all tournaments of FIBA naman that we were relying on the PBA completely. So I think we also got good accolades from Secretary General Andreas for this program that we have. No, in fact,
Wow.
our performance in Bahrain, they were very impressed because young players competing against men, really, no, and the performance we had there, no. So he was very happy with the development. Of course, for him, it's a progress of Philippine basketball, no. But going back to that program, I think that was something that we really wanted to. We assessed how it was, and I think with full support from PBA, I think. Again, we appreciate that, but it was just difficult for us. And to your point, rush yung ating preparation. And I think we believe that we needed longer preparation. We needed certain dedicated players for the program, especially for most of the tournaments of the FIBA, because FIBA is also pushing for a lot of these tournaments and will happen. A lot of the tournaments will happen during the year. But for the bigger tournaments, I think we can find a way where we can also inject this program with of course the best players in the country, the PBA player. So siguro it's really developing this young core of young players, make them battle ready, and if you inject them with 3, 4, 5 veterans eventually, then I think we can be very competitive internationally. And it's different playing international ball, as you know, Nolly. So we also want this team to be going out there and actually competing. No? Well, except nga, may pandemic tayo ngayon.
In that sense, Al, no, I know, sabi mo nga, you sit also as governor ng Meralco sa PBA, and you are president of SBP. In that regard, kamusta ang usapan? Do you foresee more PBA players? Kasi alam natin, medyo dito sa mga susunod na mga tournaments this year, it will be an all-cadets team, no? And we know that this is part of your long-term planning. Nakausap natin si Coach Tab Baldwin dito. But
Yes.
do you foresee more PBA players in 2023 rather than yung mas marami kaysa sa mga nasa pool ngayon ng Gilas?
I think of course, again, I'm not a coach and Tab as ano rin, no? But I think if we can see a split between the cadets and the PBA players, and 6-6 or 7-5 or whatever, I think that would be a great way of also, again, sa akin kasi it's really sustainability of the program. It's not just
Yun
a one
nga,
shot.
tama.
So I want to look at it long term beyond 2023. Of course, we want to compete really well 2023 since we're hosting it here. We want to make sure that we are able to compete well. But longer term din ang thinking namin sa national team program. And I think if we can develop that pool of players, then we have more options. We have more choices, and again, we're also increasing our pool, hopefully, of our naturalized players. No, I think Angelo Kwame, hopefully soon to be a Filipino, and I think there's a big chance that he will be part of the window in June, and also the OQT in Serbia. So that's one aspect also of our program, no. But really developing a bigger pool of players, and at the end of the day, we've seen this, Nolly. Players who have joined the Gilas, and in fact, during your time, yung ating initial Gilas na puro cadet also, when they joined the PBA, they were immediate stars.
Very good.
Very good. Their exposure and the level of basketball that they've been exposed to internationally, I mean, just made them better players. So it's also for the good of the PBA.
Exactly.
These players play also internationally.
Exactly, and that's exactly the program that I think the SBP is trying to build. Kasi in the end, ang magbe-benepisyo rin ito ay ang PBA. And when you talk about increasing that pool, we know that we're looking at a really good lineup for 2023. Hopefully, with the players overseas, including Filipinos na talaga naman may dugong Pilipino, pero dahil sa mga rules ng FIBA ay hindi makapaglaro as locals, yung kanilang rule ng having to have a passport before they turn 16. Now, is that something that the SBP is still pushing na ma-review ng FIBA? And what is the status of that, Al?
We're working very hard on that one. I think we should hire you, Noli. You're a lawyer. You know FIBA very well. You know SBP very well. I think you should help us develop that paper with FIBA. No, but really, I think Secretary Andreas, Secretary Andreas, very aware of that issue with us, and I think we've been communicating. Not formally. He knows the issues that we've been bringing to the table, but it has been an issue that needs a lot of discussion still with FIBA. I guess
okay.
when you talk to FIBA, although it's there's a negative impact on the Philippines, they're really looking at, I don't know, 120 countries where they have to find a solution for an issue that happened many years ago, maybe even during your time, no? When I won't mention the country, one of the countries overnight, just 11 out of its 12 players overnight from Americans, so they became that nationality. So I think that's something that they're trying to avoid. They understand our situation. Sabi nga, there are 10 million Filipinos out there, mostly women. They get pregnant and they suddenly have
wala tayong magagawa doon eh. Talagang
magagawa doon eh.
Oo, talagang mahilig tayo sa basketball. So, a lot of people want to play. Okay, I know that you're very busy. I don't want to take any more of your time, but before I let you go, ano ba ang goals ng SBP for 2023? I mean, realistically, especially I know that Mr. MVP has been, really excited about the 2023 hosting. Alam natin na ayaw rin naman ninyong mapahiya sa ating mga kababayan. What are the goals of the SBP? And this early, are you preparing for 2023 already?
Yes. I mean, to answer your last question, I think we have been working on this since even before the World Cup in China finished. In fact, we were asking our friends from FIBA Geneva that we wanted to start working, and they said, tapusin muna natin yung World Cup 2019. and after that, a few months after that, when they were able to rest and recover, we already started working. In fact, during this pandemic, a lot of virtual meetings have happened. We've been working very closely with David Crocker, who's based in Singapore, because he's been appointed as part of the World Cup team. We've had board meetings at the level of MVP and the heads of the other countries for the past year also. So we're forming the budget. Our objective is to really host the best World Cup. As you know, I think China, of course, hosted a very successful hosting in China in 2019, but a lot of it were because of the technology and also a lot of the venues. They had 8 venues and all of that. I think we want to push technology through to our own initiatives, but we want it to be the best fan-based activity or
Experience.
Experience that we can. That's on the hosting side, and we want to make sure everybody is safe. Hopefully, by the time vaccines are already in excess and out, and everybody's safe, travel restrictions are now lifted, and I really pity Tokyo, because they've spent so much money, and yet they will not have that expected crowd that they wanted for the Olympics. We want to have hopefully a normal Olympics where a lot of the people can fly into the country. From a, of course, team perspective, I think our objective is always to do better. We had one win in Seville. We didn't do too well in China. We'd like to go to the next round, sana, when we host it in 2023. So I don't know does that mean 2-3 wins? Then hopefully that's the goal for us, so that we go to the next stage, so that there's development, there is progress in our program. And we're ranked 31st today from, I think, where this started, Noli? Again, 60.
Oh yeah.
31. Our highest was 30. We slipped a little bit, but hopefully we can break the top 20 at some future point. And it's progress every time. I mean, of course, do we win the World Cup in 2023? Of course. But
you'll never know. Alam mo, malay mo, baka ma-health protocol yung mga ibang mga kalaban natin.
Sabi nga ni MVP, bakit hindi na natin gawin? Ayusin na natin yung US-Philippines finals. Tapos, kausapin natin si Kwam Willie, ang referee natin, PBA.
Wag lang yung mga referee ng VisMin Super Cup. Al, it's been enjoyable. Alam mo, it's always good to hear good news amidst all of these problems na nangaganapin. Alam mo naman, basketball lang ang talagang kasiyahan ng ating mga kababayan. So it's always good news. Yes,
Meron
yes.
pa
Go
isa.
ahead. Go ahead,
And,
please.
started, this is the third already. I was asked to be part of the working group for esports, no?
Oh,
So
okay.
we have this
Yeah, yeah.
weekend, our
Oo.
third esports, no? We won both games last night. Gilas, no?
Wow.
Against
Oo.
Vietnam and Maldives. We're in the semis today, and then the finals is tomorrow. So please, it's all being live streamed on our Facebook.
Okay.
So asking viewers, absent real basketball game,
Manood
e-game
na
is
sila nun.
almost like,
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. Oo.
sabi nga ng anak ko kahapon kasi we beat Maldives 112 to something. Basta tambak na tambak. Sabi niya sana ganito maglaro ang Gilas, real Gilas.
Sana makalaban US. Tambakan natin ang US dun sa sa finals. Al, thank you so much. Stay safe. You look good.
Thank you.
Hope
Thank
to
you.
see
Maraming
soon.
salamat.
Hope to see
Thank
you.
you. Again, apologies for the other
Walang
times I
problema.
couldn't make it.
Always a
Ingat.
pleasure to have you. Salamat, salamat. Mga
Ingat po.
kaibigan,
Thank you.
Mr. Al Panlilio, President ng Samahang Basketbol ng Pilipinas. Talagang masaya, masarap marinig yung mga balitang ganyan. Ang basketball ang nagbibigay lagi ng kasiyahan sa atin. Kaya yung mga minsan kinikriticize ang basketball, yan talagang katuwaan po ng ating bansa. Ano magagawa natin? Ano? Maraming salamat muli kay Mr. Al Panlilio. Alright, at this point mga kaibigan, napasok muna natin ang ating This Week in Sports History. April 17, 1972 or 49 years na po ang nakalilipas nang formal nang kilalanin ng Boston Marathon ang pagsali ng mga kababaihan. Aba, actually bago ang 1972 race, may mga babae nang tumatakbo sa nasabing marathon. Yun nga lang, patago. Kasi hindi talaga pinapayagang sumali ang mga babae nung panahon na yon. Pero noong 1972, nagbago ang lahat ng yan dahil kinilala na ng organizers ang mga babaeng runners at sa katunayan, nagkaroon pa ng women's winner. Mga kababaihan sa Boston Marathon this week in sports history. Wow, talagang dapat ito na-feature natin noong Marso, no? Women's Month. But now, Boston Marathon is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, running events. And alam ko dyan, napakasaya. It's also very, I'm sure, natamaan din na yun ng pandemya. And talking about tinatamaan ng pandemya, one of the things that we always wait for pagka panahon po ng tag-araw, itong tag-init, ay yung karera ba ng mga siklista. Ako po, nung bata ako, sinusundan ko yan. Sila Teodorico Rimarim, si Paquito Ribas, si Manuel Reynante. Nung pamula pa ng pangalan niyang Tour of Luzon, naging Tour ng Pilipinas, at kung ano-ano pa. Well, naging uso po ang cycling at talaga namang naging summer classic, summer spectacle. Pero dahil sa pandemya, naku, ang dami po nagbagot. Ngayon po, para bigyan lang tayo ng konting update, makakasama po natin ang chairman ng Tour de Filipinas. Yan po ang nagpapatakbo ngayon nung ating paboritong mga cycling tours tuwing summer. Walang iba kundi si Donna May Lina, ang chairman po ng Tour de Filipinas. Good morning, Donna May. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Nolly. Good morning.
Thank you so much. Alam ko na this was on short notice, but gusto ko lang kasi makakuha ng konting update. But before I ask you about what's going on, Tour de Filipinas has been ongoing for quite a long time. Bakit ito sinusuportahan ninyo, yung Tour de Filipinas?
Actually, 10 years kami last, hindi pala last year, 2019.
2 years ago. Oo,
yes,
tama.
before the pandemic, we celebrated 10 years. And of course, with our founder and chief proponent of that, Alberto Lina, we adopted, and galing pa po yan dun sa Tour of Luzon.
Yes.
So, namana po namin yan. At kasama nga po namin, na-mention nyo kanina, si Mang Paking Riva. So, we really been organizing that through the heritage to promote cycling and professional cycling para a venue talaga ang Pilipinas sa pagpopromote ng siklistang Pilipino.
Well, alam natin that every summer, yan nga sabi ko, inaabangan yan, no? And for a while, ito ay naging yung Tour de Filipinas talaga namang nag-produce ng mga napakagaling din mga siklista. In fact, I believe you also had some foreign cyclists sometimes that come over.
Yes, we're actually a UCI sanctioned race. We're part of the Asia Tour. So, ang Pilipinas po, ang Tour de Filipinas, kasali po tayo sa Asia Tour. So, it's a 2.2 race where a lot of foreign cyclists actually join and experience the beautiful cycling routes here in the Philippines. So, madami rin po nag-emerge ng mga Asian cyclists and who really attend our race.
Okay, Donna, I guess the question that is being begged is, ano ang plano ngayon ng Le Tour with lahat na nangyayari ngayon na dahil nga sa gitna ng pandemya at nitong lockdown, ano ba ang latest na update at plans ng Le Tour de Filipinas?
Syempre bago nag-pandemic, right? Actually, naka-ready na kami for our 11th year to cycle in the North. In terms of calendar, gaya ng mga iba-ibang sporting bodies, right? Pinapadala mo yung calendar of activities sa UCI. Ito yung Union Ciclista International. So coming pa lang from last year, if you see the projections, kanya nagsabi na kami na for this year, seeing also the trends in, of course, the pandemic cases, nagsabi na kami na this year talaga, wala munang race. Of course, syempre, yung miracle dyan is probably if we're able to vaccinate a lot of people, etc. But there's a calendar that we follow. And for the calendar for 2022 na tayo ngayon, diba? Parang warp na yung time. Have to review our old manual. And nagsabi na kami na for this year, that's really close to impossible given, of course, the priority that we give to our frontliners, our medical frontliners, our communities. Kasi pag nagpapakarera, Nolly, malaki yung bubble na kailangan ng Le Tour de Filipinas. It's a 4-day race and usually we traverse through about 600 to 700 kilometers of road race. So that means probinsya sa probinsya yan, of course, unless we change modes or go into an esports model. But if we're adopting the same model, we actually need to go through that. So napakalaking preparation. And of course, we have to coordinate with all national, with a lot of national bodies from the DOT, DOTR, DPWH, hanggang sa NDRRMC po, naka-alert ang mga ER. Siyempre, ngayon, di ba, I know we love sports and actually number one dapat talaga ang health. Sabi na sa mga health magazines, journals and all na kailangan ma-prioritize rin yun ang mga pinakamalakas na nakakasurvive nitong pandemya. So we really need to recreate the format. But for now, for Le Tour de Filipinas, the most optimistic that we can do this race is 2023. Grabe, di ba?
Wow, grabe.
Ko lang na masabi yun. Kasi 2022 na ngayon, ano nang petsa ngayon? April. And syempre, na-avoid natin talagang summer spectacle or dito sa Pilipinas, tag-init siya. Pero iba-iba na ngayon, di ba? As we speak right now, bagyo, di ba? So with climate change and all, we're also adjusting schedules with that.
Well, kami po ay umaasa na sana nga. Well, of course, this is malungkot na wala tayong tour this year dahil naiintindihan naman natin yan na dahil nga sa nangyayari sa atin. But we certainly hope na makabalik ang tour next year dahil talagang yan po ay isa nating kinalakihan at maraming natutuwa. Lalong-lalo na pag dumadaan sa bayan ninyo yung mismong tour, and we certainly hope that it can be brought back. Final message, I guess, Donna, especially for our cyclists, no? Yung mga may hilig talagang was looking forward to this. Ano ang masasabi natin just to give them a little more hope that makakapagpedal muli sila in the future?
Yung maganda do ngayon, ang naidulot ng pandemic, right, is yung ang pagsa-cycling as a way of life.
Right.
Naging very, very essential dyan and dahil dyan parang na-supersede nga yung mission ng Le Tour de Filipinas. Kasi ngayon, actually, lahat ng tao is nakakapag-bike na prioritize sa mga cyclists. So, wag silang mababahala, etc. Right? Because ngayon, syempre yung mass gathering ng cycling, hindi pa yun kayang gawin, right? Pero with technology ngayon, merong ibang mga organizers also nakagawa nila. Even Le Tour de France last year, that's what they did, right? It was an tour, hybrid. So, as long as we're able to keep fit, at shoutout pala rin sa mga frontliners na cyclists dyan, yung mga kasali ng Standard Navy, 7-Eleven, Click Air 21 cycling team. Yung mga cycling teams naman ngayon, maliit na grupo ay nakakapag-cycling abroad, napapayagan po yan. Pero sa mga ating mga
Great.
cycling enthusiast na gusto makaabang doon, antay-antay tayo at para makakita. Siyempre, iba talaga yung excitement ng live. Alam natin lahat yan. I also enjoy all sorts of sports, from basketball to golf to volleyball to my sport, softball. So we're really missing that energy. So meanwhile, parang
Hintay na
off-season
lang.
lang baga, di ba?
Oh, mahaba lang. Mahaba lang.
Oo, mahabang off-season. So naglaro po ako ng softball sa UP under Dean Coach Kiko. Pagka off-season po kami ay drills lahat. So gawin po natin lahat sa mga cyclista, whether you're a cyclist or another athlete, drills po muna tayo.
Okay.
At home.
I know.
Sa open air.
Long off season, pero yan ay aabangan natin when it returns. Donna, thank you so much. My best regards, please, to Mr. Bert. All respects to your dad. Maraming salamat for joining us today.
Okay, thank you also, Comnoli.
Thank you. Yan po mga kaibigan, si Donna Lina, ang chairman ng Tour de Filipinas. May konting pagbalita tungkol naman sa ating inaabangang cycling. Next year, abangan natin yung Tour de Filipinas. Alright, at this point mga kaibigan, before we continue with the program, pasalamatan ko lang po ang ating mga tagapagtaguyod ng Power and Play. Ang una ko pong gusto pasalamatan, of course, Big Boss Cement, Big Boss sa tatag, Big Boss sa tibay. Nandito na ang Big Boss Cement, di basta matitibag, approved sa kalikasan at sobrang abot kaya. Big Boss Cement is the first eco-friendly cement company in the Philippines. First and only cement that is produced with low to 0% of high carbon footprint materials. Big Boss Cement, green is good. Marami din po salamat sa Cherry Loom, ang yerong may aluminum. Sa ganitong pabago-bago ang panahon, mga kapatid, sobrang init tapos biglang uulan. Kailangan natin ng matibay at protektadong bubong. Dapat ang bubong ay yerong may aluminum. Kapag may aluminum, tiyak na pang matagalan. At isa lang ang alam kong dekalidad na yerong may aluminum. Yan ang Cherry Loom. Tibay protektado sa pang matagalang yero. Cherry Loom, ang yerong may aluminum. Marami po salamat kay paring Elmer Ngo ng Cherry Loom. Katubang din natin ang Elms Resto Bar Group. Ang Elms po ay merong branches sa Elms Tapas and Winery located in Calle Bistro, Commonwealth, Quezon City, at sa Elms Grill and Bar sa Poblacion, Makati. Home of Fried Itik. Pwede po kayong tumawag sa kanilang mga mobile number 0977-157-0499 o 0966-854-4048 or visit their FB and IG pages at Elms Resto Bar Group for reservations and inquiries. Thank you also to Joyride, ang bago ninyong kasundo. Dahil ayaw naming nahihirapan ka, book Joyride Motorcycle Taxi now and experience hassle-free commute. Kapag delivery naman, Joyride ang gamitin. Bagsak presyo pero hindi ang serbisyo. Joyride is now on its lowest rates ever at available po ang delivery kahit beyond the curfew time, 24/7 sa Metro Manila, Metro Cebu, at sa lalawigan ng Laguna. Download the latest Joyride and Happy Move app. Marami din po salamat, of course, sa Makalaj Professional, your school of makeup artistry, the official makeup of Power and Play. At marami po salamat sa Skin, your face and body anti-aging center, with branches at Wilson Street sa San Juan City at sa Alabang Town Center sa Muntinlupa City. Sila po ay nagbibigay ng Indiba Tissue Regeneration Procedure, Mesotherapy, Maxipus Tri-Lipo, and many more to take care of your body needs. For inquiries, please call 0917-890-1640 or 0977-809-8886. Thank you kay Dr. G. Sarmiento at kay Doc. Richie Sarmiento. Maraming po salamat sa lahat ng ating mga tagapagtaguyod ng Power and Play. And of course, lahat po ng mga nakatutok sa atin ngayon, mamaya-maya babasahin natin pati po yung mga komentaryo ninyo sa ating pinupulsuhan sa Pulso ng Bayan, yung pong tama na ba o sapat na ba yung mga parusa o sanctions na binigay ng para po dun sa VisMin Super Cup. At this point, naku, ito na. Excited ako dito. Ito pong ating susunod na mga bisita ay talaga namang matagal ko na rin hindi nakakausap at ngayon po ay may pagkakataon tayong makipaghuntahan lamang sa mga iba't ibang klaseng mga balita na nangyayari po. Walang iba kundi ang ating mga kaibigan at mga super sports analysts. Sila the Dean, Quinito Henson, at ang aking pinakagwapong Gregorio, si Coach Ryan Gregorio. Ayun. Quinito, Ryan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Nolly. Good morning.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Hi, RG.
Yun.
Good morning, Com. Good morning, Dean. Good to see you.
Alam mo, Quinito, this is the longest that I have not seen you on TV. Nakakapanibago ba para sa iyo?
Talaga, oo. I really miss it. I think the last time I came on was for the World Championship title fight sa Binyan, Laguna. That was about a month ago.
Oh.
I had to undergo swab testing, and but that was also before the ECQ. Kanya nami-miss ko talaga itong coverage.
Oo, ikaw rin nami-miss ka na. Naku, ang dami talagang nagtatanong sa akin. Kaya sabi ko, okay, mag-alala. Pagka nagkaroon ng technology si Coach Ryan Gregorio dyan sa sa coverage, makikita na. Coach Ryan, ikaw, hindi ka ba naiinip? Mukhang fresh na fresh ka. Patuloy ba yung pag-eehersisyo mo, Coach Ryan? Ha?
Pinaghahandaan ko talaga to pag naiimbitahan mo ko, Com Noli. Mga 2 araw ko talagang pinapagpreparahan yan. Tapos yung nalaman kong kasama pa si Dean Quinito na miss ko na rin, talagang itong pagprepara ko dito sa segment na to.
Yan ang gusto ko sa iyo Kaya nami-miss kita Well, let's quickly, I want to go through some topics here and marami ako gusto pero hindi ko naman pwedeng kasi maubusan tayo ng oras pag ganito. But let me go quickly lang muna doon sa VisMin Super Cup, no? Quinito, you've written an article about it. Alam na natin ang nangyari. Marami nang nasabi tungkol dito. And now, a lot of suspensions, a lot of bans, a lot of fines have been meted out. Unang-una, let me ask you, Quinito, ano ba ang ugat nitong pangyayaring ito? Is it, people are talking game fixing, trifling with the rules, or is it simply incompetence? Ano sa tingin mo, Quinito?
Maybe all of the above. Because sa tingin ko, yung level of play and the quality of play is really subpar. But I think with the way the investigation has been conducted so far by the GAB, pati din yung mga VisMin Cup officials, it looks like game fixing was a big part of what happened. And mukha yatang nabayaran yung Sikihor at pumayag naman yata ang Sikihor to get involved in this shenanigan. And nung nakita ng Lapu-Lapu na may nangyayaring hindi maganda, parang nababoy na tuloy yung laro. And I feel this is such a disgrace to the game. But however, beyond the suspensions given to the players, beyond the banning of Sikihor, here is an opportunity for us to really get to the root of the problem. Sino ba talaga nagpasimula nito, no? Sino mga promotor? If there was game fixing, if it is proved that there indeed was game fixing and that money had transferred hands, or maybe money did not even transfer hands, I think GAB has to step in. I have spoken with the GAB chairman, Baha Mitra, and he did say that they are continuing to conduct the investigation. Plus, he might need help from law enforcement authorities. Now, I remember back in the days sa PBA, nagkaroon din ng konting suspicion about game fixing during the time of Commissioner Rudy Salud, and he brought in the NBI to make sure that things were in order, to make sure that there would be no hanky-panky going on during games. And they were able to make sure that all the games would be above board. Now, in this case, it can be both proactive and also retroactive. Meaning to say, ano ba talaga nangyari dun sa laro last Wednesday? If there was game fixing, let the policemen move in, let the GAB take charge in conducting the investigation, and then find out who were the masterminds. Kawawa din yung mga player. Of course, they are also to blame because they accepted this role. But who brought this to light? who
Oo.
offered them this money and who gave them this quote-unquote opportunity to do something bad.
Alam mo, Rai, on that point ni Quinito about game fixing, recently, pati ang DOJ naglabas ng resolusyon or ika nga indictment doon sa mga nasangkot sa MPBL, no? Back in a game in the Lacan Cup in 2019, in violation of PD 1602 and in relation to PD 483. Among those players na indicted, 17 individuals for game fixing, 14 counts for certain people. Among them was a player involved dito sa Sikihor game. Ang pangalan niya, Joshua Alcober. And you know, given that scenario, na parang tila nagkaroon din dito ng lapses on itong ika nga mga qualities ng isang professional player. How do you think should the GAB address this moving forward para hindi na uli maulit itong mga pangyayaring may mga naglalaro at nagsasabi sila ay professional pero they don't act professionally?
There has to be sanctions. I agree with Dean. I also agree with your position that we are just scratching the surface at this point. We really have to dig deeper. We really have to make sure that everyone involved will at least be known to the public and make sure that there will be corresponding consequences because of the way they bastardize the sport that we truly love. I remember as a basketball player when I was playing 30 years ago, I missed two free throws and we lost the game. And up to now, it's still vivid in my memory because I let my team down. Can you imagine when I was watching the clips? If they made their free throws, it would have made their team and their teammates down. May mali. Ibang klase talaga yung nangyaring yon. Initially, when I was watching it, it was a comedy of errors. I truly believe that these players are just incompetent. And while I was reviewing it over a period of time, from that comedy of errors, it became horror. So it was deliberate, obviously. Yung paglip na padapa pa, nagmimintis. So it is just a bad representation of the sport that we truly love. From a basketball player to a basketball coach, for example, they should have stopped it right away when they saw, as guardians of the game, as educators of the game, as teachers of the basketball sport, dapat yun nahinto na rin because meron responsibility yung mga coaches. And also yung referees, there was a time that the referees decided to stop it. And what about the analysts? Can you imagine the analysts trying to call games na, the ball was just slippery? Naawa ako sa lahat ng involved dun sa game na yon, to be honest with you.
Well, you know, before we leave this topic, Quinito, kanina kausap ko si Al Panlilio and he also had, you know, he gave his reaction. He was he said, in his words, aghast with what happened. And, you know, sa tingin mo ba, this incident will have a severe impact on, especially regional basketball, and also will have an impact, at least, in the image of the Philippines in terms of international basketball?
Well, definitely, no, because nag-viral na yata itong video, no, about what went on. But I also think this is a wake-up call for all leagues to police their ranks and to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. Kasi talaga nakakahiya, no? But I'm also wondering, no, yung MPBL is not professional. Itong VisMin Cup is professional and therefore under the GAB. But I think SBP, no, as a whole, and since Coach Ryan is here, I'm just wondering, no, what kind of authority does SBP have over leagues like these, no, MPBL and VisMin Cup? One is professional, one is semi-professional, but even the PBA, kasi although professional, is sort of under the SBP because yan ang ating basketball
Governing
federation
body.
covering the entire country. So maybe the SPP should also be involved to protect the integrity of the game.
Well,
Yes, I totally agree.
That he will be involved. Sinabi ni Al that you will be involved, Ryan. But again, please go ahead.
Yes, Com and Dean. Right after your call, Com, we had a quick huddle with Boss Al. and he asked for a meeting with Executive Director Sunny Barrios and Operations Head Butch Antonio, specifically to sit down. Great opportunity. That is correct. Sometimes we are just so enamored with the game of basketball that everybody is just having this standard of play that we don't have to look into this shenanigans. Now, since it is right before our very eyes, it is time to look at this particular opportunity, to look at our bylaws, strengthen also the teeth of SBP in coordination, in alignment with the GAB. And as a federation, I truly believe that we should have a say in this particular issue.
Alam mo sa akin, my only opinion about this, and I've seen the SBP constitution, I've also read the FIBA rules. The SBP completely has jurisdiction over this as the governing body, particularly with terms of transfer of players. Alam mo, bago lumipat ang isang player from one league to another, dapat may clearance ang SBP. And that is where the control is. Kaya bago sila sumali sa isang liga, katulad itong si Joshua Alcober, nagkaroon na pala to ng kaso sa MPBL. Nakapaglaro pa dito sa VisMin Super Cup. Ito na lang ang example no? Na bakit ito pinayagan pa maglaro? Meron na pala itong kaso ng game fixing. So again, these are things that I think the SBP certainly can do something about and will have control over. But let me move on.
But Tom Noli, I just wanted to raise a point sana kung pwede, no? Tom Noli and also Coach RG, no? I felt in reviewing the game tape that some players were not hiding the fact that they were throwing the game. So, that might be an indication that they wanted to expose something. That some players maybe didn't like the way things were going on, that they wanted to make it plain na may nangyayari hindi maganda. Baka they want to expose it. And meaning to say, baka naman they're willing to sing. Baka naman they're willing to say, sino ba nag-udyok sa kanila? No? Maybe. So, I just feel that these players, while they're also culprits, while they're also accountable, they also could be victims. And if...
Pwede maging state witness. Pwede maging state witness.
I was actually telling Chairman Baham, Chairman, sabi ko, malaking pagkakataon ito because we have a live case. We have a live case. What if we tell some of these players, we'll give you a lifetime ban, but kung kakanta kayo, kung sasabihin nyo kung sino talagang nag-approach sa inyo o nabigyan ba kayo ng pera, ganon, we're going to reduce your ban. Something like that, no? Para kumanta na sila. We need these people to sing like birds. And, I'm really excited to find out kung sino talagang gumagawa ng mga ganito, no? At the same time, it's also very dangerous because if these people are holding on to big amounts of cash, they are also capable of doing something bodily harmful to the players. So we need to be able to protect these people. This is not a joke. This is a serious crime. And it is it confronts the game that we all love.
Kailangan ng malinis talaga to. And marami na nag-react na mga tao, including PBA players, Coach Ryan. And
yes.
I laud all of these PBA players na nagsabi na wag niyo naman babuhin ng laro, lalo na kayo nabigyan ng pagkakataong maglaro, no. So let me jump. I don't want to get stuck in the mud that itong VisMin Super Cup is nailagay sa atin. But let me jump to the PBA, Coach Ryan. We are in limbo sa PBA right now. I know lahat ay nangungulila sa laro. Ano ba ang latest and what other options can the PBA look at here given the situation that we find ourselves in the Philippines right now?
Well, for one, the surge in the cases is just exponentially higher than last year. We're seeing a lot of cases on a daily basis, also the number of deaths. And I understand the position of the PBA, the commissioner, and of course, the PBA board to make sure that everybody concerned are protected. The health and welfare of us as an individual is the most important and the priority of the league. The other thing maybe is to just go back to the bubble again if it is possible. Coach Tim Cone made his manifestation that this person in, if that is direction, And I'm sure it is a continuing conversation among the shapers and the movers of the league. And personally, I just miss it. I just miss basketball. I miss watching. I miss calling the games. And as a student of the sport, I just love a little normalcy in how we do things. And basketball is part and parcel of our daily grinds as a Filipino.
Totoo yan because talaga naman yan ang nagbibigay sa atin ng pag-asa, nagbibigay ng kasiyahan, and of course, yung normalcy na sinasabi mo, Coach Rai. Quinito, now the PBA is already considering going back to a bubble. What are the pros and cons of this? Can the PBA afford this once again? Can the teams afford another bubble setup?
Well, I understand magkakaroon ng board meeting on Monday. Yan ang pag-uusapan. But kausap ko din si Com Willie at sabi niya sa akin, yung ginastos ng PBA for the Clark bubble was in the range of 65 to 70 million pesos. And that was for about a 2-month situation. Ngayon, kung babalik tayo sa bubble, and in the first conference, looking at the schedule, it looks like it will take 4 months to complete. So that's double the amount. We're talking of 350 people in that bubble, no? And I don't know if at this stage the PBA can afford something like this. No, we're talking of about 140, 150 million pesos for one conference. Yung second conference, assuming that itutuloy natin yun, that will be for 6 months. So again, you're going to have to expand your budget to way over 200 million. Combined, we're talking already of about 350 to 400 million pesos for those two conferences. And it's too much. No? But, beyond the budget, it's the mental stress. Imagine you go bring all these players in a bubble situation for 4 months. Sa 2 months ka, ang dami ng problema, no? Anxiety, missing family, it's not a joke. Kausap ko si Stanley Pringle kahapon. Sabi niya, he's not married. Wala siyang girlfriend, sabi niya. So, okay lang siya kung maglaro ng bubble. But he's thinking about those guys with families. Sabi sa akin ni Com Willie, kausap niya si Bobelga, L.A. Tenorio, Paul Lee, just to be able to get a gauge. Do these guys agree to go back to a bubble? Sabi naman nila, yes. Kasi it's their livelihood. So, but it's so challenging.
Mahirap.
It's so daunting. Hindi lang yung pera, hindi lang yung mental stress, yung logistical preparations. Remember, we're going to have to do testing. And it's already Red Cross. So, medyo may kamahalan din yun.
It might even be cheaper, Coach Ryan, na gawin na lang nating extended out-of-town play. Diba? I mean, if you look at it, dahil ang sa labas ng Maynila, it is actually GCQ, no? Some areas are even MGCQ. We've played outside of Metro Manila, baka mas mura pa yun kasi all the teams will have to get housing and accommodation, and yet they can play, and that might be an option. Do you think that's something that should be placed on the table as well, an extended out-of-town play for teams, and maybe divide them in certain areas?
I'm sure it will be discussed during the board meeting on Monday. Everything will be laid down on the table, and they will get whatever is the option for the league to start. Dean pointed out really well that it is not just the financial consideration. The mental health issue is also being considered. But at this point, again, it is important for a player or for a coach, for that matter, to start thinking about just getting back to our normal lives. Of course, the easiest is a vaccine. If the vaccine is already available, by all means, let's go play basketball again, and let's start going back to our normal lives. But I am sure, because, for example, the preparation for Gilas in SBP, we stopped also because NCR Plus, Inspire is part of NCR Plus. And if we consider, for example, going back to Pampanga again, it's not part of NCR Plus. So that can be an option, Noli. Tama yung sinasabi mo, and I'm sure it will be discussed on Monday.
Quinito, before I leave the PBA, ito on the part of the PBA, and on the teams, but on the part of the players, there are some players na hindi pa nabibigyan ng kontrata because of that act of God provision na nilagay nila. This must be taking its toll as well sa players. Do you see any move on the part of the alam naman natin ang PBA team owners are very alam nila yung pangangailangan ng mga players. Do you think that the team owners are going to make a move here and sige na, pagbigyan na natin at kawawa naman ng mga players?
Well, I'm sure yan ay isa sa mga pag-uusapan nila on Monday, no? But I do know that the rookies are in fact quite affected because there is a rule in the PBA that once you are given a tender offer, you have I think 30 days after you get your tender offer that you're given a contract that you can sign a UPC. But in this case, the PBA has ruled that unless wala pang 5-on-5 scrimmages allowed, then teams are given the leeway not to offer contracts yet to these rookies. They're being given allowances, but wala pang kontrata. So, malaking bagay kasi yung allowances as against contracts. But, talking about our situation now, we're in MECQ until the end of April, and unfortunately, that does not allow us to even do individual workouts. It will only be GCQ when we are allowed to do individual workouts. Wala pang 5-on-5 scrimmages yun. Ha? Pagdating ng MGCQ, doon lang papasok yung 5-on-5 scrimmages and depending on the situation, actual games. So, mahabang proseso pa to, no? We're still in MECQ, kanya we can't even think about individual workouts. Sabi ko nga kanina, kausap ko si Stanley, and Stanley was telling me, they've been doing Zoom sessions. All the teams are doing Zoom sessions. Mahirap din yun kasi wala kang interaction. Sabi ko nga sa kanya, kumusta yung mga rookies ninyo sa Hinebra? Nakakausap mo ba? Oo, nakakausap namin sa Zoom. It's difficult. Sabi nila, they only had about 2 weeks of individual workouts before the ECQ came in. But since the institution of the ECQ, wala, puro Zoom na lang eh.
Mamaya makakausap ko si Norman Black in an interview that I did last night with him. At siya rin niya sinabi niya, sipin mo si Alvin Pasaol daw, hindi pa niya nakakasama sa basketball court. So, obviously this is a very difficult situation. I'm running out of time here, but I want to get into some other thing. I want to talk about the NBA just a little bit here. And ito yung tungkol to sa rule ng play-in tournament, mukhang ginaya ng NBA sa PBA, yung play-in tournament. Gusto natin Coach Rai. But do you think yung play-in tournament ng NBA is fair? Kasi itong play-in tournament nila, nung nasa bubble sila, you have to be within 3 games para ikaw pumasok doon sa play-in tournament. 3 games back from the 8th place team. Ngayon, kahit na 7 games back ka sa 8th, meron pa rin play-in tournament yung 9 and 10 at 7 and 8. Ryan, do you think this is an innovation that is good for the NBA? And do you think that particular aspect lang is fair for teams na kumayod ng kumayod? Ikaw, naging coach ka. Alam ko, nagkaroon ka ng format na ganyan nung panahon mo na kahit ka ng kahit, pagdating sa dulo, wala ka rin nakuha, di ba? So, do you think that's fair in play-in tournament?
It is. As far as I'm concerned, it's okay. Especially if you are in a specific situation. For example, if you are 7 and 8, obviously you don't want it. But if you really work so hard and you ended up in the 1 to 6, then by all means, you don't have to go through that eye of the needle. But if you are 7 and 8, then of course you're going to hate it because it's not automatic playoff experience for you. But what if you're 8 and 9? So if you're 9 and 10, 9 and 10, then you still have an opportunity to make it to the playoffs. So what am I saying here? Even in the USNCAA, for example, even if you are unbeaten, it takes 1 game only for you to lose and you're out of the tournament. So in other words, even if you work the hardest, you still have to make it in those 2 games. Make sure that you win those 2 games so that you'll make it to the playoffs. So I understand of Luka Doncic or even Mark Cuban, but at some point there are teams which are very happy that they are still in contention even if they are 9 and 10. I'm all for it.
Well, I'm sure yung mga fans ng Golden State Warriors, ng Indiana, yan, lahat yan masaya. Chicago, dahil naandyan pa sila, they're hovering around there. Quinito, latest in the NBA is that Jamal Murray is out because of an torn ACL on his left knee. And of course, LaMarcus Aldridge has retired from the Brooklyn Nets. Hindi pa nga umiinit, nag-retire na because of a heart problem. Do you think this affects the Denver Nuggets and the Brooklyn Nets in their playoff run?
Well, I don't know about the Brooklyn Nets because kapapasok lang ni Aldridge and he really hasn't even made a dent at all. No? So, but I think Jamal Murray, yes. Without him, it's going to be very difficult for Denver to advance because he's such a key player in their lineup. But just going back to the play-in situation, I totally agree with it because unang-una, it's a shortened season. So if it were an 82-game season, okay lang wala nang play-in. But now, because of the pandemic, so many teams are undergoing lineup changes because of protocols, COVID protocols, injuries. So and so many other things that irregularities that would not have happened kung walang pandemic. So because of that, you really need to be able to have some kind of a system where you give a chance for teams in the cusp of making it to the playoffs. Give them naman a chance. At yes, ginaya nga ng NBA ang PBA. Marami kasing mga innovations ang PBA na dapat gayahin. For instance, itong system natin about a 3-referee tapos with one waiting na pwedeng mapalitan at any time. Yun, I think that should be done by the NBA. Dapat wag nilang malitin yung PBA because marami silang mapupulot sa atin.
Well, okay, before I let go of the NBA, the two hottest teams, Ryan, is the Boston Celtics, winners of 5, Clippers, winners of 7. Do you think they can sustain?
Very tough. I think they're gonna make it. They're gonna be in the top 6, but I will still go for the East. It's still gonna be Brooklyn, even with Aldridge. I think the 3 superstars will make it happen all the way to the division finals. Of course, we're talking about Durant and also Brooklyn and Philadelphia in the East. While in the West, it's going to be a close one. Of course, my purple and gold team, because of injuries, they're going to have a hard time getting back to good shape. But will be tough. Utah Jazz is playing splendid basketball. Phoenix Suns, I think they're going to falter in the end because of inexperience. It's still going to be the Lakers in the West, and I still want to know who they're going to be going up against.
All right, I've run out of time. Before I let you go, guys, ito lang I will play a little game with you. Ito yung aking paboritong laro, yung Sus Mariosep, teka lang, at wala lang, no? Ay, teka at wala lang. So, alam niyo ninyo, pag Sus Mariosep, it's a news na napakaganda. Yung ay, teka, pwede. Yun namang wala lang, walang kwentang news. First question, quick lang, is Michael Jordan will present Kobe Bryant in the Hall of Fame induction. Yang bang balitang yan is Sus Mariosep, ay teka o wala lang? Quinito, ikaw?
Sus Mariosep, okay lang yan.
Talagang siyempre, Michael Jordan. Ryan?
Oo naman.
Sus Mariosep yan. Of course.
Sus Mario. All right. Second news article. Jaja Santiago was offered, yung ating volleyball player na napakagaling, na ngayon naglalaro sa Japan. Siya ay na-offeran ng naturalization by Japan to play for the Olympic volleyball team. Ryan, yung balitang yan, anong reaction mo?
Teka lang, wag naman. Pilipinas.
Quinito?
Teka lang din. Dapat pag-isipan niya yan. I know it's a great opportunity. Baka pwede siya makalaro sa Olympics with a volleyball team. Pero masyadong seloso itong Japan League because they already prohibited Jaja from playing for the Philippines in the Southeast Asian Games because may kontrata sa pro. Hindi po pwede yan. Sa FIBA, even if you're tied down to a pro league, if your national team calls you, you will be allowed to go.
Oh. All right. Final news article. Manny Pacquiao nakatanggap ng isang karakter in his image doon sa game na sikat, Mobile Legends Bang Bang. Ang pangalan niya doon ay Paquito. Quinito, anong reaction mo dyan sa news na yan?
Wala lang. Wala lang. It has nothing to do with Senator Manny being a world-class fighter. Neither does it have anything to do with him being a senator. Siguro, for those who like to get involved in something like this, okay lang. But sa akin, wala lang ito. It won't make a difference.
Ryan?
Apologies din pero it has something to do with the generation. I play that game So sa akin, sus Mariosep yan. So I can be Manny Pacquiao at least pagdating dyan sa laban na ganyan.
Well, I'm sure Manny Pacquiao is also using his own Paquito skin sa Mobile Legends. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me this morning. Maraming salamat. Stay safe. Quinito, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom Noli. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you.
See you.
Maraming salamat. Yan po mga kaibigan, Quinito Henson and Ryan Gregorio sa napakasayang diskusyon. Alright, we'll take a quick break. Pagbabalik po kami. Pagbabalik namin, kasama natin Norman Black ng Meralco Bolts. Ito po ang Power and Play hatid sa inyo ng Big Boss Cement at ng Cherry Loom. Nagbabalik po tayo sa Power and Play. Bago po tayo magpatuloy, gusto ko lang batiin ng isang happy birthday ang aking kapatid, si Ate Susie. Happy birthday, Ate. Enjoy your day. Alright. At this point, mga kaibigan, papasok ko na po ang aking naging interview sa head coach ng Meralco Bolts. Pinag-usapan po natin napakaraming bagay. We'll probably divide this interview into two parts. Pero ito po ang unang parte ng aking panayam with head coach Norman Black ng Meralco Bolts. There's so many discussions about what can be done. I know that the PBA board is about to convene again and they will decide on the options. Commissioner Willie is really having a hard time putting this all together, but the possibility of another bubble looms, Coach Norman. So do you think that this is something that PBA teams, coaches, players will be able to accept once again?
Definitely. If we have to do that, then that's what we'll do. It's our job my job to coach and the players' job to play. And of course, the teams have been very, very kind in the fact that they've taken care of us despite the fact that we are not playing basketball right now. So if they say we have to go to another bubble, then that's what we have to do if we want to play basketball. So I'm all for it. I'm okay with it.
You were in the bubble for about over 40 days, and obviously there were many things that happened in Clark. You were one game short of the finals. You did very well in the Philippine Cup. But before we go to that particular performance, do you have any takeaways from your first experience in the bubble? Things that if the bubble happens again, you are going to do and you are going to avoid for your team?
Well, what I'm hoping for is that we will be given more time to train before we actually go into the bubble. That was really our disadvantage last time. Some of my players actually joined me there 5 days before we actually played our first game. So we're hoping that we have a little bit more preparation time before we actually have to go into the bubble. In other words, we get some practices in here in Manila so that we can get in shape, because that was the big problem with most of the coaches. The players really were not in great condition when we started the season. So this time around, I'm hoping that we'll be given a little bit more time to get our players in shape. In addition to that, I think we adjusted pretty well to the bubble. I'm not just talking about my team, but I think all the teams did. And it's difficult. It's not an easy situation when you're stuck in your room the entire day and they're telling you to basically stay in your room the entire day. The only time you come out of your room is when it's a team event, like you're going to practice or you're going to be at the pool or you're going to have a coaches meeting or a players meeting. Those are the only times you actually come out of your room. So you're actually surrounded by 4 walls and a TV the entire day. So it's a little bit difficult. You're away from your family. Fortunately for us, they did allow family members to send food and other things to the bubble. So we got our favorite cookies and whatever else you could get from your family members. But it's a difficult situation, mainly because you're away from your family.
Given that, the personnel that you bring into the bubble, and given the time, a lot of time that is spent outside of the basketball court, are you looking at additional personnel that you can bring in, maybe a psychologist, a team building expert, or whatever, just to get more activities for the boys outside of the basketball games?
No, I'm not looking to bring in anybody extra. I thought after a while we did a good job of adjusting. We actually became much closer as a team because we were together constantly throughout the entire day, throughout the entire week, throughout the entire time period that we were there. So we made adjustments, and we would go on walks together. We would have to train together in the exercise room. We have to go to the pool together. So we spent a lot of time together in that bubble. I mean, we probably got a lot closer than we would have been if we had just been here in Metro Manila. So we'll continue to do those things. I'll talk to Paulo Trillo, who's the manager, and figure out what else we can do better if we have to go back into a bubble again. Yeah. Actually, I prefer not to go back into a bubble if it's possible, but at the same time, if they say we have to, then we have to.
Yeah, well, things are slowly unraveling. Cases are still high, so we really don't know what's going to happen here. Of course, the timetables are also all messed up at the moment. But again, going back to that performance in the Philippine Cup, you had a 7-4 record, 5th in the elimination round, but you got into the into the semifinals by beating San Miguel, the defending champion, and you were 1 game away. You were knocked out because of a 3-point shot by Scotty Thompson. It was a terrific performance for the Bolts. And Coach Norman, you have retooled the Bolts since then. You've made a Mac Bello trade. You have brought back Noy Baclao.
Yes.
You have resigned, of course, some of the big guns. Reynal Hugnatan is back in the fold. And, of course, you had a bountiful draft. Right now, how competitive do you see is Meralco with the rest of the field?
Well, in my mind, Noli, there's no question we have improved our team. We've added some quality players. Like you said, Mac Bello was brought in to help us in our front line. He'll play power forward and small forward for us this year. In addition to that, Noy Baclao is coming off of an injury, but he will be healthy and he'll be playing this all Filipino when we do get started. So he's going to help us, particularly on the defensive end of the court. It'll give us an ability to defend some of the better bigs from the other teams as we go down the stretch. And of course, Alvin Pasol was our pick in the draft, our number 1 pick number 9. And I'm expecting a lot from him. He's been a big-time scorer throughout his entire career. I don't see why he can't do that in the PBA, because he eventually is going to be playing against the same players he played against in the amateurs. So we're expecting a good performance from him starting this All-Filipino. So we certainly have improved our team in my mind. The only problem is everybody else has improved also. So, and I'm not just talking about the 4 top teams now. I mean, if you look at Inlex, they really improved. You looked at Phoenix, they really improved. You looked at Alaska, they improved. So Northport, nobody's talking about Northport, but they actually have a lot of talent in their team. So it's not just the 3 San Miguel teams in Talking Text who have improved from last year, but a lot of teams have improved. So, we will have to take it a game at a time, as we always do. But at the same time, with the team I have going into this conference, I think we can beat anybody on any given night.
One of the pieces that had to be let go due to the Mac Bello trade, of course, was Pasera Mer. How tough was that, Coach Norman? Just letting go of a guy who's practically a glue, a leader on the floor, and a terrific point guard.
Well, actually, that was a pretty emotional moment for me, because when I had to actually talk to him and tell him, because I had been with Sarah for 5 years, and he had been a big part of our team, and he had produced a lot for us over the years. So it was hard to let him go. But we felt, the coaching staff and the management, that some of our younger guards had developed already. And we needed to really firm up our front line, because that was one of the reasons why we could not get to the next level, which was the championship round in the All-Filipino. So when the opportunity came to get Mac Bello, we jumped on it, thinking that, okay, we're giving up with Sarah Mir. Obviously, that's a loss for the team. But at the same time, we think we do have young guys that can step up and fill in that position. Also have some veterans like Nards Pinto and Andrew Karam, who can come in as veterans and do a good job. And my top assist man, my top playmaker is actually Chris Newsom. So he's still there, and he can play point guard at times. So we're expecting a lot out of Aaron this year. We're expecting a lot out of Travis Jackson. We expect him to step up and fill in that position.
All right, very interesting, because that was my next question. With Paser out, obviously there's going to be a next man up. But more than that, who do you think becomes more of the leader of this team now? Is it really Chris Newsom? And where does Mac Bello fit in the future of the team?
Well, if you were to ask me, well, look, let's just take it. The 2 captains of the team are Cliff Hodge and Raynel Hugnatin. But if you were to ask me, I would say that probably Chris Newsom is the leader. And he's the one that plays the most minutes. He's the most productive player we have. He's also very vocal. His leadership is in a vocal manner. He speaks up a lot. So I would say he would probably be one of our top leaders in the team. So we're expecting a lot from him. But at the same time, like I said, Cliff Hodge is a veteran. Raynel Hugnatin are veterans. They're both hardworking. They're both very coachable. So I expect them to help out as far as the leadership is concerned also. Where does Mac Bello fit in? I'm expecting Mac Bello to come in and help us immediately. He's already proven to be a very productive player in the PBA. He's a double-figure scorer every night. He averages about 8 rebounds a game. So if he can just bring that every single game, that just gives us a lot more depth, particularly as we get down the stretch. My feeling, Noli, is our problem is not having the ability to beat teams in the elimination round. I think we can do that. The problem is when you get into a 5-game series or a 7-game series, and the other team has a lot more depth than you have, and then you get maybe an injury to a key player or somebody with a little bit of a slump, and you don't have another guy to step in and make up that production immediately. So I think we'll be a much deeper team this year, and that's where Mac Bello comes in. He helps us in that front line. We can use him as a 3-man. We can use him as a 4-man, so he gives us a lot of versatility.
Excellent point that you made with respect to the depth of the team, particularly when it comes already to a head mano-a-mano clash in the playoffs. You mentioned Aaron a while ago, and that you expect more things from him this season. Obviously, he did very, very well in the bubble, the most outstanding rookie of 2020. Did you expect that, Norman? And are you thankful that you drafted him?
Well, I'm definitely thankful that I drafted him. No question about that. Even though some people have negative, feelings towards that. He's your son, and you drafted him, and you're giving him playing time. Well, he deserves playing time. He's a good player, and whether people want to accept it or not, that's totally up to Aaron to decide. Aaron still has an opportunity to get out on the basketball court coming up the All Filipinos, so he has a chance to get out there and prove himself on the basketball court every game. I'm happy that I drafted him. I was a little bit surprised that he played as well as he did. And I will admit that, this was not a conference like C.J. Perez rookie year where he pretty much dominated everything. There were a lot of good rookies last year. A lot of guys played well. But Aaron did play well. He ended up second in statistical points. So he was right up there the entire conference. And I guess the difference was Adams' team only won one game, because Adams was the number one in statistical points. So Aaron, he did win the award. But like I've been telling him, that's just one thing that you did. You have to continue to do it over and over and over again. That's how you get to be known as a good player in the PBA. You have to repeat that performance as much as possible. So, we've been out, we've been training.
Yeah. And what part of his game? Yan po mga kaibigan, ang parte ng ating panayam kay Coach Norman Black. Unfortunately, medyo naubusan tayo ng oras. We will play the rest of the interview. Mahaba po yan. He talked about Alvin Pasaol. He talked about, yung pagkuha nila sa mga current players nila, yung roles na ibibigay niya. And he even talked about Kai Soto in the end. So abangan niyo po yan next week. Ating ibabalik ang interview natin with Coach Norman Black. Bago po tayo magtapos, gusto ko lang basahin yung mga nagpadala ng kanilang mga post tungkol sa ating Pulso ng Bayan. Yung ating pong tanong ngayong araw na to, karapat-dapat ba ang parusa na pinataw sa mga sangkot sa controversial na VisMin Super Cup game? Sabi ni Canalvsan, they sanctioned the wrong people. Players will never act on their own. Team owners are directly responsible for this fiasco, etc., etc. Sabi ni Christian J. Carian, dapat nang imbestiga muna bago nagpataw ng parusa. Unfair sa players, sa lahat ng involved parties. Sa totoong buhay nga, sinaksak na nga pero iimbestigahan pa din. At dapat mas mabigat na parusa. Sabi ni Jeff Plazo, dapat lang, this kind of behavior is unacceptable. Ipakita nila na walang sinasanto kapag gumawa ng ganyan. At mula naman kay I am Chokokay, sabi niya, players and coaches lang, dapat sir, dahil mga professional sila at possible na sangkot sa game fixing yan, may karampatan na kaso dapat yan. Di lang basta basketball ito, sindikato. From Arnold Tere, sabi niya, it goes beyond basketball, sir. They should also go after those that are just using the players. Then dapat ilabas din nila on how and why. Maraming po salamat doon pa sa mga ibang nagpadala ng kanilang opinion. At sana po patuloy kayong tumutok dyan sa balitang yan dahil napakahalaga niyan. By the way, gusto ko po rin batiin ng isang belated happy birthday ang aking kaibigan, si J. David, at ang ama ng ating kasama sa Power and Play staff na si Mike Santillan, ang ama niya. Nakasama ko sa PBA panel. Walang iba kundi si Joey Santillan. Happy birthday, Joey. Tumatanda ka na rin. Happy birthday, Joey. Alright, batiin ko lang lahat po ng mga nakatutok, lalong-lalo na si Lucio Casil ng Radyo 5 Taxi Squad from Bohol. Layo, no? Kamusta po kayong lahat dyan? Si Eli Delman ng Tacloban City, Carlo Fernando ng Binyan, Laguna, at si Alex Fuentes ng Bacolod City. Kinakamusta ko rin po si Erning at si Lindan Baria ng Los Baños, Laguna. Get well, Erning, Neng at saka get well. At kasama nyo na rin si Maylin. Nasa sa aming panalangin kayong tatlo. Alright mga kaibigan, di paano, tapos na naman ang isang episode ng Power and Play. Ingat-ingat po tayo, patuloy na mataas ang kaso, wag po tayo magpabaya. At lahat po ng ating gawain, tandaan po natin, ad maiorem Dei Gloriam. All for the greater glory of God. Happy sports weekend mga kapatid. More power, more play.